All right, y'all. Today I'm just going to kind of talk to you about what trend lines are and how we're going to use them. So I want to point out that if I say the word correlation or association, we're going to think of those as synonyms. They're meaning the same thing when we're talking about trend lines. So what we're going to look at first is completing this concept map for trend lines. So here's our vocabulary word. And the first thing we want to do is talk about the definition. So what a trend line is a line that passes through the middle of the data, the information itself. So sometimes data means just the numbers, sometimes it means the information. Well, where is this going to be happening? Where it's going to be happening is on the type of graph called scatter plots. Okay? And how we are using it is to predict a pattern. To predict a pattern. So you either going to have three choices. We are either going to have a positive association. We're going to have a negative association. Or we're going to have no associations. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay. A positive association is like what we think of kind of like a positive slope. As your x's increase, your y's are increasing on that scatter plot. A negative association, think about negative slope. As your x's are increasing, your y's are going down in value. If there's no association, that just means that there's nothing to compare those two things with because your scatter plots are kind of all over this place. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to sketch a trend line on the graph. If the trend continues, if there is a trend, what could be the value for y when x is 6? So what we're going to do is we are actually going to start, so when you make a trend line, you are going to start trend line at the first ordered pair you see. Okay? And we're going to go pass through the middle of your data. So the first ordered pair I see is right here, and we want to try and do our trend line to where the majority of our data is around that. So as my x's are increasing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I see that I'm going up. So as my x's are increasing, so are my y's. So this is a positive trend line, a positive association. So there is a correlation. They work together for you. Okay, remember correlation and association mean the same thing. So we could say this is a positive correlation or a positive association. So we want to predict when x is 6. So we have it right here. So that's between 30 and 31. So we could say y maybe be 32, could be 33. Even if you said 30 or maybe 37, anything kind of around that area. But for example, there could be a couple different y values this could be, but we could say anything around that area. We wouldn't say that it was 10 because 10's all the way down here. Okay, I would think maybe the lowest, just depending on how you drew this, would maybe be about 28, something like that. So just kind of be careful about that. Okay, so if we look over here, we start our trend line over here, and we want to try and kind of go get where we get the middle of our data. And so these scatter plots, these ordered pairs, aren't hitting on that line exactly, but they're around that trend line, and as my x's are increasing on this one, my y values are going down, so this is a negative correlation or a negative association or a negative trend line. Okay, here on this one we can see, again, not all those ordered pairs are going through, the trend line's not going to hit every single ordered pair, but we're going through that middle of our data, and that would be a positive trend. Okay, so an example for a no association, I'm just going to kind of draw one up here. Just kind of give you guys an example. So if this is my x and this is my y, and we just had all these ordered pairs all over the place, Well, it doesn't matter where I start. If I draw a trend line like this, we're seeing that they're not around there, so this is a no association. No trend. Because in order for it to have that association, the majority of your points have to be around there. So if you see this one, they're kind of all over the place, so that would be a no association. Okay? All right, so that's what we're looking at for trend lines, kind of showing the difference between those three. And again, we're using it to predict a pattern because if it were to continue to go, we can look at that. So on this last part, describing a situation where a trend line could be helpful, just try to think about something that you might see where this might be helpful in real life, and then double check with your teacher with your prediction, and we can tell you if that's a good example or not. Okay, so this is kind of open-ended, and we want you to try that out.